Hey, welcome back to another edition of Triple Play, and we keep enjoying these. And today, we want to just make sure we're still giving a shout out to Andy McCollum. And for those who may have called that number and realized it was a fax number, I am sorry. You can reach him at Resource One at 636-458-1798. And you can reach Chris with CS Design at 573-436-3717. Each of those guys have put time and energy into helping us out with our podcast. We appreciate that very much. If you haven't checked out the last couple episodes, we've had some really good guests on lately. Andy was amazing. I really enjoyed that interview. The Bowens from outer space to, hanging out with a lot of ball players, doing Christian Family Day.
Yeah, we only touched on 2 points of their life: their job and their second job.
Yeah.
So we didn't get too much into their kids and all that, but yeah, they've lived a long life and pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And with Andy, I mean, we're talking about a guy who honestly hasn't even played football in a while, and yet, we just barely touched on the fact that he's adopted girls. We got one, going to college to be a wrestler. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more there to him too, which, hopefully, maybe, God willing, we'll get him back in the studio sometime and have a chance to chat with him. If you haven't already, we need to let you know, you've got to subscribe, you need to like, and you need to share this. The more we get out, the more we can do, and we're trying to do our best to put out good quality stuff to help you guys out and to help us. Yeah. We enjoy this, not just the fact that we're doing it, but the fact that we flesh things out on air sometimes.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
it'll help. I mean, the bigger we can grow this, I think not at all that Andy's not a cool guest. He's an amazing guest, but guys like Andy on here more frequently and make this kind of like a thing. Another outlet where you can hear from different people that you might not get listening to the radio or who you're listening to now.
Oh yeah. We definitely want to have more guests and a variety of people on here and get to know them. So in fact, if you don't know already, I know I've shared the message out with several people, but next week we're going to have a guy named Vic Miller on one of our episodes, and he's going to be talking about manhood. And we're gonna dive a little bit deeper than the norm, probably, into our identity as men and the thought of rite of passage. If you haven't checked out Wild at Heart, do so, and we're looking forward to that conversation because that's going to be a real good one. And we've got some other fun ones lined up right behind it. So keep looking. Getting in today's lineup, Scott. So. Yeah. A lot of weird, fun stories. I really enjoy when we talk about some of these stories that are kind of fun. And the first one...
Yeah, this one's definitely cool.
So, and he's a Dodger, right?
Yeah,
so,
current Dodger. We got Mookie Betts.
That's right.
He entered the 2023 PBA U.S. Open Championship, and it's currently going on in Indianapolis. I'm sure if you're on social media or anything, you've seen ESPN, you've seen Mookie Betts roll the ball.
Yeah.
I guess, and you can't say bowl. You don't bowl a ball. If you're a true bowler, you roll the ball. So Mookie's rolling it around. I mean, he's doing well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He made the cut.
He made the cut, yeah.
I don't know, only 8 guys make the cut. So
he'll be bowling Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
He's got the weekend, yeah.
I mean, he might have a career after a great career. I mean, that's pretty wild.
This says he is tied with the number 1 bowler in the world. His score. Number pins. Is that pins down?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just pin down. There's only 1 stat in bowling.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I think it's really cool. It's fun to have when you see players have a different hobby or that they're gifted in maybe another athletic sport. We're going to get into that a little bit later on because without a doubt we got to talk about the big news the last 24 hours about Tom Brady. But before we get to that, let's talk about our next one. And this guy is a fun one too because we've been talking about him the last several episodes.
Yeah, Novak.
Yeah.
Djokovic. I think the spelling's wrong on that, but Djokovic. Yeah, he is incredible. I mean, he didn't play in a lot of the Grand Slam tournament. Did he play in any of them?
I don't think last year he got a chance.
Yeah,
this is his first one. Yeah.
And he wins.
Ties him with the best.
Yeah, did you see the video when he won? He's like, he's just beat. His legs look like he can't walk. He's crawling over the bleachers. But
that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. It was redemptive.
Did you hear that he was playing on a 3 centimeter tear?
Where? It's got to be in his leg, calf, quad.
I don't I want to say it was was it a meniscus tear? It was a 3 centimeter tear. I know that he played on. They came out and said so.
3 millimeters. I can't picture millimeters.
Either way, a tear playing at your top. I mean, he wins his 22nd Grand Slam with an injury, basically, right? I mean, it's like. Yeah, I look at that as like Michael Jordan winning that playoff game playing, with the flu. Yeah. So, I mean, that's that kind of level play. So. Yeah,
that's just cool. I mean, the first tournament back he wins. Too bad he wasn't allowed to play in the other ones.
No. But it sounds like he's going to have this year. He's going to be able to. So, we'll see if maybe there's more behind there.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll win. He'll win again.
All right, so I'm going to put a video up for our viewers, and we can watch it with them. But this is going to be fun. This is the announcement here.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So
all right, so Tom Brady officially retires.
I'm so happy.
I'm
so happy he's retired.
I think he's very happy. He's $375 million, 10 years happy.
Yeah.
He signed
depends on if he likes it or not.
Well,
right. I guess
sports analyst.
Quit. I wonder if it's binding. I wonder if he has the ability to quit.
I don't know, but I can tell you that's a lot. I mean, he's already made a lot of money. He's played one of the longest football careers, and he basically came out on top, so he's constantly made good money, not long. And he came in before they had changed all the rules when you were young. So,
yeah.
You're talking about a guy who's for a long time, and then you got endorsements. I mean.
And his wife's richer than him, which is crazy to think about.
Well, they're not married now.
Well, okay, yeah. Ex-wife, sorry. Excuse me.
That's okay, but she did post something nice out there for him. So.
Did she?
Yeah.
What did she say, you remember?
Look it up on Twitter.
Best wishes?
Something like that. It was kind of best wishes.
Well, my brother-in-law is the biggest Tom Brady fan.
Really?
And, yeah, I'm sure he's sad. He named his son after him. His son's name's Brady.
Oh, wow.
So that's commitment.
That is commitment.
Okay, so my brother-in-law's sad. I'm happy. I don't want to. I'm tired of. You just hear somebody's name long enough, you're just kind of like, okay.
Well, and the fact he already retired once and then came back, I think that kind of, people are. When you retire, you retire. Coming back, I think unless you're Michael Jordan, you retire super young.
Yeah.
But he didn't, so I think it's good. But here's an interesting thing, okay?
Yeah.
He was drafted in the 18th round in 1995 by the Montreal Expos.
Yes, he was.
So
let me guess the question. What do you think he's going to be? Was he good enough to play in the MLB?
Well, that would be a question, but I was actually going to say that also makes him the last Expo professional athlete to be on any field. So, because he was drafted by them, and there are no other Expos around. They've all retired. So
that's true.
Yeah, he became an Expo right before they moved. So
I would imagine my answer to my own question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I was going to ask you.
I think there's, in baseball, I think you have to have quick muscles to play baseball. Even if you're CC Sabathia and you're pitching at 300 pounds, he was quick. He had a quick arm, he had quick hips, I just don't see Tom Brady having a quick muscle. He's got a quick arm, but I think that's more strength than quickness. I can't see him covering first base or running down a ball in the gap, Do
you know what he played?
No. Catcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was catcher.
You still have to be quick.
least pounce up, right?
Yeah,
So I don't, you
I've
know,
seen him swing. There's videos of him swinging. He's got a good swing. Obviously, he got drafted. I'm not saying he's
yeah. I mean, you got to be good enough to get drafted. I'm going to say that I think he would have been a decent ball player in baseball, and the reason why I say that, he comes from that generation. You look around that time at how many good ball players were doing both, and it seemed like if they were drafted in both, they absolutely and stayed in both, they actually did well in both. You had Bo Jackson, obviously, in an earlier era in the 80s, but in the 90s, you would have had Deion Sanders, Brian Jordan. There was a few double.
Quick.
Yeah.
They were quick football.
But I mean, have you seen anybody look at the dedication that Brady put to his fitness, for his training, for his diet?
I'm just saying.
You don't think he would have put that same dedication towards being quick? Of course, you know, some could say that Tim Tebow did that in football and it still didn't work out. So,
who's a better athlete, Tim Tebow or Tom Brady?
athlete or
Just athlete. If you could
Tim
do
Tebow is a
football-
better athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also played baseball.
Right.
He was in the Mets
Right.
minors for a few years.
There's a good comparison, I think, and I think that those two comparisons are good comparisons
Okay.
as far as quarterbacks going to try to play football.
So when you think of dual players, who do you think was the best? Do you go all the way back to like a Bob Gibson who played with the Harlem Globetrotters, or do you do somebody like, you know, Bo Jackson, who seems to be, you know, the
Who was that athlete back in the it was like the 30s and 20s, 30s, 40s. He was a Native American. Oh man, killing me! You gotta know this. He's considered like one of the greatest athletes of all time. He was an Olympian.
really?
He won the decathlon. He didn't wear shoes during it. He just did the whole thing with no shoes.
Really?
Yes.
Kind of like Shoeless Joe, eh?
Gosh,
Man.
I'm gonna think of his name. I can't find the Giselle thing.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
I
I don't know what she said.
Yeah, it was nice. I read it and I can't remember. It was something like, you know, congratulations, you know, on your retirement. Glad, you know, that you're moving on to your next chapter type of thing. I think that the contract with Fox really helps out because that kind of solidifies he ain't coming back. He's got a gig that pays. So, and hopefully that sticks. But I'm going to say I mean, it's interesting because you watch it somebody like Deion Sanders, and Deion Sanders played both, and in fact he was good at both, and even played one football game in the afternoon, and then had to be airlifted over to a playoff game in baseball.
Yep.
So you know,
I mean Deion Sanders, I think he did a 30 for 30 on it. He said baseball it's just harder. It's just harder. So and I just think if an incredible athlete like Deion Sanders is saying something is I just think the transition is unknown.
I'd be interested to get Bo on here one time and hear what he had to say about that. You know?
About which was harder?
Yeah, and which one he enjoyed more? Which, you know, what?
Oh, I think he would say baseball. Yeah. He was a football player, so he went out of his way to make sure he could play baseball. So I mean, I think that says a lot.
He was amazing at both. Man, I love watching highlights of both, whether it was with the Royals game or, you know, tearing it down the middle of the field for the Raiders.
Oh, yeah. He blew out his hip and he was like 20. He was young.
Oh yeah, he was really young.
Like totally changed who he was as an athlete. So who knows? I mean, I think it's Bo. I think Bo's the
standard
best that's ever. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly an interesting ordeal. Now on to our next one. This one's another one that's kind of interesting because we were just talking about this not the last episode but the episode before. We kind of talked about should players be forced to have patches or wear certain jerseys, and it comes out. Okay, so we had one player for the Flyers not do it, but the whole team for the Rangers this time came out in the news, decided not to do it. So, you know, they didn't. I like that the team in NHL didn't make a big deal really about it. It was more of a big deal just for the media who love to placate to, oh my gosh, that must mean they hate them. But I thought it was an interesting thing that after one guy, a whole team follows.
Right.
So, you know, maybe he started a trend.
Mini revolution.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of players probably on both sides of some of these issues.
Yeah.
There'll be some that wear it, and that's fine. I just think it's interesting that everybody gets upset when somebody doesn't. Like if somebody wants to wear something like that, that's fine. A small patch or something. That's not a big deal to me. But
Yeah. Nobody. You shouldn't be forced to do something you don't want to do.
absolutely, that makes you out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and especially if you're a high athlete, they're already this. Most athletes are superstitious, and so you start changing things up. It reminds me of Chris Sale. Do you remember that story?
Mm-hmm.
Where they gave him the different pitching jersey. It didn't feel comfortable. They said, "Well, you need to pitch with it anyways," and he got mad and literally ripped it. I think he ripped the sleeves off. Is what he did, right?
During spring training, yeah. And that was actually, I think that soon followed. He was one of the more outspoken guys on that White Sox team when all that happened with LaRoche.
Yeah.
So when LaRoche got essentially ushered out of the locker room and all that happened, I think Chris Sale's the most adamant that was wrong. It was like ridiculous, and I think it might have been the next start. He made that big scene on the mound and refused to pitch.
Yeah, that was an interesting ordeal. I've always liked Chris Sale. I liked him more after that. I thought that was pretty cool. So, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
And so we another one that we've talked about a little bit, and he's back in the news because he finally got a home. It wasn't the Dodgers.
No.
I thought it would be. I thought maybe the Cardinals if they got desperate enough. But 1 year with Royals.
Yeah.
So,
and you didn't hear anything, right? It's just he just signed.
he just signed.
He just signed.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And you thought out of nowhere decide his team.
He and I just know this because he would. I think in 16 he was kind of nearing. I think that might have been his last year, and he kind of started talking, and I was listening about some of his ideas, and I remember him talking about a particular team, and his focus was there. I mean, he was talking about the new tech they're using down there and all that stuff, and so I think he made up his mind, and he liked what he liked last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting because he didn't have a great year last year. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't up to his normal standard. But he dealt with a little bit of injuries. Yeah, I think he had 2 stints on the injured list.
Yeah.
So, and that wasn't a great team. If you can look at the ERA and go, yeah, that was 3.68. But then when you look at this, where he allowed 2 runs or fewer in 17 of his 26 starts.
You know what's interesting about that is if I would like to go, I might do this, is go back and look at those starts that he had under 2 and see if he was going against another number 1 starter that day.
Oh, yeah.
He's so competitive driven, and I think that, like you were talking about the year he had this year, I think if he had like another number 1 on the team last year where he was competing, his numbers would be better. His years when he was with Kershaw, when he was down in Houston, like he always had a guy that he was competing against. And he's so competitive that he'll just have a good year, just despite the number 1 on that team,
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We'll see. I don't know the Royals pitching staff that well, but if there's someone that makes Zach feel like he's got to show everybody that he's better than that guy, he will.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. All right. Well, let's move into our faith and culture segment today. So. This one's going to be an interesting. There's a couple things that we're going to talk about here. The first one, for those who don't know, there's 2 conservative groups out there. You have the Blaze, okay, and you kind of got the Daily Wire, okay. And the Blaze had a couple of big names, and one of those names was a guy named Steve Crowder. So Steven Crowder, if you don't know who he is, he's loud, louder with Crowder. That's what he likes to call himself. He actually had a career prior to doing podcasting. He was an actor, and so he tends to be much more into the drama, a lot more production and stuff on his show. He also is a stand-up comic. So I just want to preface, you got to understand a little bit of who he is, and then
which is funny because I don't think he's not funny.
You don't think?
I don't think he's funny.
Oh, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, some of his segments are really fun.
I think he presents funny, but I think he presents funny well on his show as far as content. But I don't know. I just don't find him particularly funny.
Interesting.
Personally.
Yeah, I think a lot of his stuff is like the memes that he puts together, the commercials that he does where he's acting in them, and just does outlandish stuff. So, check out it if you want to see some stuff. I think his Instagram page has quite a bit on there.
I'm not on the gram.
Oh, there you go. I think that's kind of where he likes to hunt. I don't think he hunts on Facebook a lot, and so I think Instagram's kind of his place. He puts some of his video clips out there, but I think you can also go to his website, louderwithcrowder.com, I believe is what it is. So, but he moved on from the Blaze, so he not the fit that he was wanting. Everybody assumed that he'd probably move to the Daily Wire, and he had friends over there, a lot of friends on the Daily Wire, and they have some conversation. He apparently did not like
private conversations.
Private conversations, yeah. He apparently didn't like the initial offer sheet that they gave him, which anybody knows in negotiating, when you get an offer sheet, you're going to mark it up. That's not what you're.
No, yeah, nobody goes. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a starting point, and just like any contract that's going to come to you from the other side, they're going to put everything that they want, right? I mean, I've never signed a contract or done something where they didn't come the first time and say, "Here's everything we want," and I went, "Well, that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen." So, unless it's a standard union type contract, that in normal negotiations, that's what happens. So.
Normal.
But he took offense to it. He wants to do business a different way. And versus just saying, hey, I'm going to do my thing and build my thing differently. He kind of threw the Daily Wire. He said, in his defense, he goes, I didn't use their name, but he led everybody to know who they were. I mean, it was pretty obvious.
Well, yeah.
Enough
and you know why he would have done it. It's just to bleed the Daily Wire out of more money to get people on his side, and it backfired.
Yeah, I don't know if it backfired. I think people who are loyal to Steve Crowder, I've talked to a lot of friends who love him, and they're going to
defend him.
They'll defend him.
Yeah.
And I got people who are loyal to Daily Wire. I actually have watched both over the years. I'm a member of the Daily Wire. I'm not a member of the Mug Club, but I watch enough of Steve and Crowder over the years. I like Louder with Crowder. I like when he does change my mind. I like some of his skits that he does. I don't know if I go in and really watch full episodes more then I just watch a lot of his clips.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
So he puts out a lot of fun stuff. But the thing is, they kind of got a little personal a week or so ago. Some phone calls and stuff that were put out in the public. All that said, my conversation, my thing here is why? To me, and maybe you can speak to this. I don't like to see infighting in the conservative movement, especially when it's guys that I think genuinely they want the same outcome. It's just a matter of how they want to go about getting there. To me, it reminds me of how you got different politicians from different things in Congress, and one of the things they got to do is work through the outcome of how they want to get there. But throwing each other under the bus in a movement right now that we need to be coming together, just to me, I didn't like that. That personally kind of rubbed me wrong. I don't want to blame one side or the other. I think that obviously Steven Crowder was kind of the one who first went public with it, and that kind of got me a little wrong there. On the other hand, I mean, the Daily Wire kind of freaked out, and everybody was making their comments about it, and I thought sometimes the best thing to do, especially when the guy attacking you is really more of a friend, is just to let it die and just go, okay, that's just who he is. I mean, to me, if they would have come out and said, he was talking about us, we disagree, and not went in this whole defense mode, which gets to one of my points here that I want to point out. It's actually one of the verses I wanted to put up there from Proverbs 15, 1 through 2, which says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts folly. And the reason why I bring that up is that kind of applies to that situation. It seemed to me like, guys, this is one of those times where it's better not to respond with harsh words, because you're, again, on the same point. I hate it even when it happens in a church. When I got believers in a church that have differing opinions on, color of the carpet, let's say, at the church. Okay, well, that's not the important thing. I'll go to church wherever the carpet is, and I get that you guys have preferences, but are those preferences more important than our love and for one another? And then also, are they more important than the final outcome we all want to see?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's just it's foolish because it never was going to resolve anything in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if he publicly says something and maybe the situation garners that where he has to, like, maybe he's getting stonewalled, Crowder's getting stonewalled, and maybe he's got to make a public comment, and that would force whoever to act. But it was just foolish. It didn't accomplish anything.
No, I would agree on that. And what I hope is that somewhere behind the scenes that both of those groups can kind of come together and bring some harmony. On the other hand, we were just talking a few weeks ago and talking about Congress, where you had this feud over Congress for the House, and yet I was kind of for that a little bit because I thought it brought out the best of.
Because it was going to accomplish something.
Something, right? It was going to accomplish something good. Yeah, that's why I said I'm kind of torn. I've had a lot of friends of mine ask where I stand on this, and I go, man, I just wish they wouldn't be fighting because, quite honestly, the goal to me is to bring conservative values back to our country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and obviously we understand that we have to do it through alternative media means. How that plays out, I think they each have their spot. Daily Wire, they're kind of building like a Disney model. I mean, they got the Plus. They're going to be doing the children's programming very soon, where they got the VeggieTale guys coming up with stuff. And then I look at a guy like Steven Crowder, and I mean the stand-up comedy, the lots of memes. I mean, he's kind of the hip thing of what's going on now. So is one needed over the other? No, I think they're both needed. I think they both have their space in the conservative movement. That we're trying to see happen. So, and I think that inbreeding just feeds fuel to the other side to go, hey, look, because when the other side has no morals and values, then they always try to hold, you find liberals in general always hold conservatives to values that they would never hold to themselves, right? Like, look at that guy, he slept around with somebody. That's because you guys have morals and values. On our side, no, it don't matter. On your side, look, a box of documents. Your president had that box of documents in there. Our guy, I mean, he's got them everywhere, but it's no big deal because we have no morals and values. We don't care about the standard because we're godless. So it seems like there's this differencing there of that. So do you think conservatives should feud publicly at all? Is there a good way to do that?
Well, yeah, there's a good way to do that, and I think what you mentioned about Congress, I think is probably one of those examples where, I wouldn't necessarily call what they did feuding. I mean, obviously the left did, but there are, like I said, there are things that if said publicly make people react, and in some scenarios are necessitate the fact that somebody needs to react, and so public comments sometimes cause people to react in your favor.
Should that be where it starts, do you think? I think that's the thing with maybe the Daily Wire, which separates it, and the Steven Crowder thing, is that it went public without having any good conversations behind the scenes that we're aware of to try to flesh that out.
Well, it wasn't a public conversation.
Right.
I think that's a big difference too, is those are two private entities having an internal discussion. So who cares if his readers know what the deal was before? It's just, it doesn't matter. It matters what the public think about what the Republican conversations that are happening in Congress are, right?
Well, I think they should always try to do it privately first, and then bring it to the public forum.
Yes, but if all that happens behind closed doors, then we don't know the one side against the other. We don't know their thinking, how they're communicating. So I think a little rustle and tussles.
Yeah, it brings a little bit out of everybody.
Yeah.
Certainly having wisdom on how to decipher those times where it's best to go behind the scenes and confront somebody that you are friends with or a brother with, versus the public forum. I think that takes wisdom.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's good for like conservatives on the conservative side, liberals on the liberal side, when those discussions are, especially in government, happen in public, whether you consider them feuding or not. I think it's a really good way to do government is publicly. You're going to get feuds, you're going to get these things, but it at least gives the public a chance to see how people are speaking about other people behind the podium, how they present themselves, how they, all these things, especially in bad times and feuds. You want to see how somebody is resolved and remains calm and can still present their case even when feuds are going on. So I think it's important that people see that that personality play out in public when maybe there's some tensions high. I think it's necessary. You don't want everybody behind closed doors just come out and say, "Hey, everything's fine," because then you have no idea who handles adversity well, who handles this, So.
And also, I think you said well too is the thought process behind it. You want to. A lot of times, that's what I want to know. I want to know how they think this out. Why are they trying to do this? What's the thought process behind that decision? So.
And it's harder to find out those facts when it's all done
behind the door,
behind closed doors, quietly. Everything's fine.
Gotcha. That's good.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. So I'm going to put up another verse here because it kind of goes with kind of wrapping that little up there. I think Paul said it well when it comes to keeping harmony, which is, "Therefore I'm a prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling for which you've been called, and with all humility and gentleness, with patience and showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in a bond of peace." So there's some wisdom in those words, for sure.
In all his words.
Absolutely. So now I got to bring up one that I actually got off the Daily Wire today. So credit to them. And this was a fun fact, but it got me thinking about multiple of the things when I saw this morning. So the article is, and I printed out so you and I can look at it, but basically lifelong marriage associated with lower risk of dementia, the study finds. So
shocking.
I know. I mean, you and I take that for granted because I think we married way over our heads, and so
an excellent wife who can find.
Love it. That's our verse we'll be talking about here in a minute, because I think for us especially, and we'll get into the guy side in a week when we go. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about that because I think we're going to dive into that part a lot when we have Wild at Heart here next week with Vic. But I think my thoughts here are very simple. That kind of like you said, duh. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, but I think a lot of people don't think about these things. That a healthy marriage leads to longer and healthier life, right? I mean, a good marriage. It really. I always, when I watch single people have to deal with life, have to deal with children, especially if it was, whatever the case caused them to have kids, and now they're in charge of people, or even if a single person's in charge of like their mom. I just think it's so difficult. I can't imagine doing all that I'm doing and not having my bride as my helpmate. My wife takes care of so much at the homestead that allows me to do things like this, to do my day job, to go to the gym. I mean, with 6 kids, she's on the go, and I know with your 4, you got your wife has to, and yours are younger right now. So
it's a lot. When I saw this, what came to mind is, and it's simple. Our brains are computers essentially, right? So if you're trying to run a household with 2 computers, you got your wife and you got the husband. Data's being downloaded and uploaded on those computers and the servers in your brain. Now, if you take one of those computers away, think about how much data and everything is on that one server now, and over time, that can slow your computer down.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the other thing is it isn't. I think just. I mean, when you're married long, typically you're going to have a marriage that you're happy in, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to find satisfaction. It doesn't mean that you don't go through. Anybody who's married knows that there's going to be rough times. There's going to be things you have to work through. We just talked about conflict. A good marriage has some of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your wife thinks differently than you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but the best rises out of that.
Yeah. So I don't know if we mentioned it, but we're looking at. Did we mention the title of this? Lifelong marriage associated with lower risk of dementia. Study finds. So my whole computer analogy, that's what it was. Dementia. You got one computer.
Yeah,
Data's coming in. It's going to slow down that computing system.
absolutely.
But on top of all of those points that you mentioned.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, your brain is only able to absorb so much, and the more you're able to share that with somebody, share that load of stress with somebody. Again, I go back and say I think of running a house, how stressed out I would be if I had to do it all by myself. I think of how much I already feel pressure to do X, Y, Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then add all those pressures that she handles for me. I just think it would feel very overwhelming very quickly. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I had hats off to those who are in a place where they have to do that. But I definitely think for those who want to know if marriage is worth it, my answer has always been yes.
Yeah.
So
And this study is lifelong marriage. So these people were they were older. They were
Yeah.
up to 70 years old. So it wasn't like they weren't studying people that had been married for 2 years at the end of their life. They followed these people for their whole marriage.
Yeah.
And the conclusion was people that stayed married, have a lifelong marriage, suffer dementia less.
How many years you been married?
15 years.
Okay. Yeah, we've
Almost.
done. We got married in 2000, so mine's always easy. Whatever year we're in is what
That's
so
nice.
22 is what I got right now. I'll be 23 later this year.
Yeah.
So, but funny enough, I didn't even bring this up in our last episode, but I met my bride. I initially met her during the fall. It was kind of a cold day, and I had some roommates that were gone. And a friend of mine asked if I wanted to be part of the singles group to play some tag, I think it was a tag or flag football. And she happened to be there, and that was the first time I saw her. And I was definitely interested, but I didn't have
You had
the
important things to do that day.
well, I had that afternoon off from I'd been serving at a church, and that morning we were done, so that was in the afternoon. I might have had youth group later that night. I don't remember, but I didn't. I mean, I got to meet her, and we were on the same team and talk a little bit. But I actually, one of the gals in our small group knew her and I realized that from the group, and so I tried to get her to bring her when the Rams were going to the Super Bowl. Our small group was having playoff parties because we all knew. It was Kurt Warner. That year was just amazing, and so we were all having like these playoff parties. And so our small group would get together, and so she started coming to those, and that's actually how I started getting to know her.
There you have it.
So yeah. So God works awesomely, but I will say 22 years definitely worth every moment of every day of that. So with that, why don't you read us Proverbs 31 here, because we were just talking about that. So
An excellent wife who can find, for her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life.
why don't you read the other part too? That's 25 and 26, because I think it ends well too.
Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue.
Absolutely. Well said of a good wife.
There you go.
So,
If you're looking for a wife, young men, study Proverbs 31.
that's it.
That's it.
You find one of those, you better grab her right away.
Yep. Don't
Take
let
her now.
Pay her to marry you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that wraps up today's episode, and we'll see you again next week. We appreciate you as always, and keep subscribing, keep liking, keep sharing, And let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. We are working on getting signed balls, so we'll be handing some of those out randomly as we see people subscribing. So keep doing that because I'm already making a list of a few people.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Let us know what we can do better. If you know, if one person says one thing, we might not take it seriously. But if 8 people, 10, 15 say the same thing, we'll hear you. We'll make the changes.
Yeah, and feel free to make comments on wherever you're watching. You know, if you're on one of the YouTube or Rumbles, I know you can put comments in there too, and we'll do our best to respond and get back to you on any of that.
I'm gonna back up. Jim Thorpe, greatest athlete of all time.
Okay, I forget.
Read about him. Maybe we'll do an episode on Jim Thorpe. Unbelievable, his life. You're crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. My dad loved him, and I did some research on his life. He's a fascinating human being.
Maybe we should have you and your dad in here to talk about it sometime.
Well, all right.
He'd probably enjoy that.
He likes Jim Thorpe.
Does he? Here's a question. You growing up? I'm sorry, folks. I gotta ask.
We're running over time.
I know, but this is fun. So growing up,
extra innings, brought to you by Josh.
So growing up, your dad plays between these two two great athletes. I mean, he was a great athlete, but
Yeah.
between Bobby Bonilla and Barry Bonds. Did you get a chance to meet them?
I did, yeah. I like Barry Bonds. I still like him. Love Barry Bonds. Like Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla is in charge of not in charge, but he's on the board of the Players Association. So yeah, I've known them both pretty well.
Yeah, I was just curious. What was it like to be around those guys? Obviously, your dad. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been around your dad enough to know his personality.
Yeah, so. Bobby Bo was a fierce competitor, and then he was like the total opposite in the tunnels after the game. Like off the field, happy-go-lucky, smiling, all those things, and then kind of the opposite with Barry. On the field, kind of whatever, and then off the field, very very serious. But he wasn't like that with kids. So the reason I like Barry Bonds is because I was a kid when he was playing, and he likes kids. And so he'd come out in the in the tunnel after the game, and sometimes he'd play stick ball with us in the tunnel. And he was a very kind guy. Didn't like the media, didn't like people in authority over him. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great player. I'll look at, especially his time in Pittsburgh, and my goodness, I mean, at that time in that era, there was nobody like him.
Yeah, and I don't, maybe I just misremember this, but I don't remember Barry Bonds being like the Giants Barry Bonds. So like Barry was just like the other guys in the outfield. But obviously he was exceptional at the time, but. I think his lore and his fame came after the Pirates.
I don't know. He was
No, very good. I'm not saying. I just, for my remembering, I don't remember hearing Barry being Barry until
I do.
I was a little bit older.
I do. I mean, Barry Bonds, all the kids wanted his rookie card. Everybody wanted his stuff. Barry Bonds was, obviously he moved up to superstardom a degree, going out there and becoming bigger and hitting the home runs, right? But Barry Bonds back at Pittsburgh, I would compare him to, that'd be like saying Pippen wasn't popular just because they had Jordan. Like Jordan was the main attraction of all basketball. But there's other players that were well respected and liked. And
I just think, I don't know.
And part of the thing about Bonds there, too, is that he also had Bobby Bonilla and your dad there. I mean, he went out to the Giants. He didn't have those guys. I mean,
That's what I mean. He became the center of
their team.
His own, any team he was going to be on, he was the center of it after the Pirates.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the Pirates, he was on a great outfield. I mean, to this day, I don't know too many outfields I would have said that it was better or more athletic than that outfield at that time.
But growing up, I only cared about my dad and Ken Griffey Jr., so... Maybe that's why I didn't think anything special of Barry. Ken Griffey was like the guy.
Did you meet him?
Yeah.
What'd you think of him?
Awesome.
Yeah.
We went to 1993 Camden Yards All-Star Game, and we were staying at the hotel up the road from there. And the morning of, it was a nice big hotel, and they had a big foyer and open. So of course, my brothers and I brought a wiffle ball bat and wiffle ball, and we were playing in the the ballroom. And Ken Griffey stopped by and noticed us and played a few innings with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I don't remember what he did there in the 1993 All-Star game, but he had some warm-ups before he went to the field.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You got a little insight into Barry and Bobby and King Griffey. So that's cool.
And that was your extra inning brought to you by Josh.
Maybe brought to you by Scott. By the way, another way you can support Scott, give him a call if you need any homeowners insurance. So he does homeowners insurance as well as podcasting.
Business insurance, life insurance, commercial insurance, car insurance, anything that is insurable.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a business number on the top of your head?
314-821-5333.
All right. Well, there you got it, guys. If you want to get homeowners insurance, now you know where to call.
If you need a loan, call
me.
What's your number?
My number, everybody knows my number, but it's 636-207-5700.
There you go.
Anyways, we appreciate you. We appreciate your following. And again, like, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. We need lots of subscribers.
You don't have to like. If you don't like it, don't like it. But if you just subscribe.
Just subscribe.
Just subscribe.
Yep.
And then if you come across something you do like, then you can like it.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. But
All right.
subscribe and like.
Subscribe and like. And like and subscribe. No.
I have a new goal. Get to a position where we don't have to tell people to like and subscribe.
Oh, we're going to have to always do that, I think.
Every episode?
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's I don't know. Unless you're Joe Rogan. He's pretty big.
I mean, if you're going to go at something, go at it.
Okay.
Coming for you, Joe.
All right. We'll do it. We'll go for Joe.
Yeah.
All right.
Astronauts don't dream of going in an airplane. They dream of going in
to the moon.
In a rocket ship.
Let's dream.
All right.
Dream big. That's right. We learned that from Judy. All right. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
You're safe.